Well, hello there. It's great to be with you this afternoon. I've been meaning to do a Facebook Live for quite some time as I wanted to chat a little bit about math and why it's so important, how we can view it biblically, and some of the resources that we have available. If you're joining in, please comment with your name and where you're from, so I'll know that you're there. And I want to start, someone submitted the question, why study math? Which is a great question. I think it's a question a lot of kids wonder as they're listening to their math class and trying to learn all of these facts and figures is why? Why does it matter? And it matters because math is really a way of describing God's creation. 1 + 1 = 2 in real life, not just in a textbook, right? Those numbers that we're learning in the textbook actually apply outside of that textbook and help us describe God's creation. You can't get a field of a degree in any field of science without extensive math, and that's because math is the tool that scientists use to explore God's creation. So math works ultimately because God is governing this universe in a consistent, faithful fashion, to the point that we can call it a fact that 1 + 1 is going to equal 2. Jeremiah 33:25 and 26 says, "Thus saith the Lord, if my covenant be not with day and night, and if I have not appointed the ordinances of heaven and earth, then will I cast away the seed of Jacob and David my servant." In other words, God's saying, look, you can see that I've appointed day and night, and the ordinances, another translation translates that as fixed laws. It says consistencies that are all around us, which is what we're describing with math, that we can see God's faithfulness in all of that, and he's just as faithful to his other covenants. In this case, he was saying he was just as faithful to his covenant with Jacob and David. So math's message really is that God is faithful and that we can trust him. And math then is also this tool that we can use to complete the task that he's given us on earth. When God made Adam and put him in the Garden of Eden, he gave him work to do, right? He was to subdue the earth and rule over it. And today we're still doing work, and that's part of what we're to do here on this earth. And so the Lord, math is a tool that we can use as we're doing that. So we want to teach it that way. Kids should really understand that. Another question that someone sent was, as a girl, what made you or inspired you to love and pursue math? And the answer to that is, I wasn't all that excited about math as a kid. I mean, I kind of did it to pass the tests and get my mom to be happy over it, but I didn't really understand why I was learning what I was learning, especially in high school. I got really lost in algebra as to the purpose of what I was studying. It wasn't until I saw that biblical worldview that math came alive and that I really went, wow, and got that passion for it. And I've heard that with other kids too. When you really see what math is, it makes a lot more sense out of math. So if you're trying to motivate your child in math, my encouragement would be to start with help them understand what it is. I mean, if you were to teach cooking by just giving your kid a textbook and never letting them into the kitchen to cook, they might come to the conclusion that they hated to cook, right? And yet they've never really cooked. They've read a textbook about cooking. And it's that same way in math. If all a child does is learn fact, memorize this, solve this, they might think they hate math, but they don't really understand what math really is and how it describes God's creation. So I wanted to briefly go over some resources that can help you in helping your child see that. This was the first book I wrote, Beyond Numbers, and it's just like you can sit down and read it in one sitting sort of guidebook to where's God in math, why does it matter, what is math really? And then Revealing Arithmetic goes through the concepts in arithmetic, so counting, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, up through exponents and roots, for each one giving you ideas and helping you see how that concept really is a way of describing God's creation, how to modify your curriculum to show that to your child. We also carry an elementary program that does a good job showing math in action and keeping the amount of problems they're having to solve to a smaller amount, so they don't learn to just hate the tediousness of math, but they get the concepts through a story. So you read a story. In the younger grades, you'd be reading it to them, and then as they get older, they could read it to themselves. But it's the story of this family and them discovering math in some capacity, and then they work a few worksheets related to that. So it's very simple and easy to use, and yet it does show that math in action. And that goes through level 1 up through level 6. They're called levels because every kid matures at their own level. And so grades are kind of misleading that way. So you basically, you put them at, there's placement tests, and you put them at the level at which they're at, and then they can move forward from there. And it dovetails perfectly into the curriculum that I wrote, which is Principles of Mathematics. And this would roughly be grade 6 or grade 7. And then book 2 would be grade 7 or grade 8. Again, it would just depend on the maturity level and skills of the student. Or you can do them both in 1 year for high school. Okay, so and you can come into this from any program. The Math Lessons for a Living Education is specifically, the level 6 was specifically written to transition into it, but any program you should be able to move over into it. I tried to make sure I filled in any gaps that might have developed when I wrote the curriculum, because I knew people would be coming into it from a variety of different curriculums. And there is a placement test to make sure that your child's ready, but basically they need to have a good understanding of arithmetic. So like they need to know how to work with fractions and how to work with decimals and add and subtract and multiply and divide. Those will be reviewed in here, but it should not be the first time they're encountering them, because it goes through that quickly and they could get lost. But what you're going to find in here is that it really takes apart every concept and shows them why. Why are they learning what they're learning? How is it really a way of describing God's creation? And how does it proclaim the Creator's praise? So for example, as they're reviewing multi-digit addition and subtraction, they get to see how people used to add and subtract on abacuses. They get to learn how to balance a checkbook and keep a checkbook. As they move into things, so like here, they're looking at fractions in music as they're looking at fractions. So they're seeing it in action, and they're being reminded that God is the one who is sustaining the universe consistently as they go through it. And so this first one, so here they get to find the distance across a stream using math as they're working on their basic geometry skills. So this one covers arithmetic, a lot of the concepts in arithmetic, and the foundations of geometry. And then in book 2, it is more pre-algebra. So you could think of this as your pre-algebra. And again, as they're learning in these different concepts, rather than just seeing y's and x's and having no idea why they're learning about y and x, they're seeing real-life examples. So here they're using proportions in the pressure and volume of a gas. So they've got letters, they've got variables, but they're seeing it in action. They're understanding why they're learning what they're learning. They even get to explore like the sounds around us. So music, there's a section, if I can find it here, on music. And then there's different tidbits from history as well. So like here, they're looking at a mathematician and how his own theorem disproved his worldview. So it's fascinating. I wanted students, after they finish this, to have a biblical foundation for looking at math, to really understand that apart from God, it doesn't even make sense why we can use math. That we need that biblical worldview to even account for our ability to count, so to speak. And also to be equipped to discern through future math courses. So they get to take a look at statistics, they look at sets, they look at some of these things that they're going to be exploring in more depth later on, but getting that biblical worldview. So I wanted them to have very firm foundation on all of the elementary concepts, and then that big picture perspective on what was coming next, so that they were equipped then when they moved forward into that. And the program's simple to use. So there's the textbook, which a student would basically read a lesson in here. And it's designed to be self-study, so they should be able to read it on their own. And then they would work a worksheet from here. And the worksheets really try to give them, again, context for why are they learning what they're learning. So here is what might look like a meaningless problem, right? But then there's an example meaning right there for them, so that they're really getting why they're learning what they're learning. Now, to keep it simple, in the front there is a schedule. So it tells you what to read each day in the worksheet, and then you just put a little check mark when they complete it. And again, there's an accelerated schedule for completing both books in 1 year for high schoolers. Now, there's also a video, an optional video e-course that you can get to go along with it, where it has me and PowerPoint slides, so they see me at the beginning of most of the lessons, and then there's a PowerPoint slide I walk through with them, teaching the concepts. So if you have an auditory learner, someone who needs a little bit more hand-holding, that is also available for both of the years of the program. And then another question I get a lot is, well, where do they go from there? Well, you can move from there to any algebra program. The one that I carry, because it does a good job showing math in action, is Jacob's Elementary Algebra. And the reason I carry it is because, more so than a lot of the algebra programs I've looked at, it shows the student why they're learning what they're learning. It doesn't necessarily make the connection to God, but if they've been through principles of mathematics, they should have that and be able to make that connection. Jacobs also has a geometry course that we sell that, again, does a really good job showing why do we care? Why are we really studying this, okay? And then from there, you can go into any Algebra 2 course. One option could be if your student is going into college, they can maybe dual enroll in an algebra course at the college. Jacobs recommends Foster's Algebra 2 in trigonometry, so that would be another option, but basically you'd go into whatever Algebra 2 course you wanted. So those are the materials that we have available. There's also a whole bunch of blog posts and information that's on my website, and I'm continuing to add more to it. Not as often as I'd like, but I'm trying to add more as I can. So please, if you have questions, if there are resources that you wish were available or topics you would like me to cover in a blog, leave them as a comment, because that really helps me know what would be helpful to you. And I would just end with an encouragement that the Lord is the one who created and sustains all things. He understands math, and it can be a really exciting journey of getting then to explore God's creation. And it does not have to be that meaningless textbook exercise. So I hope this was helpful. Thanks so much for joining in.